Welcome to Schooling Around. A victory for our schools at the polls. We'll have reaction from school headquarters and a recap of the to-do list in a moment. November 7th may as well have been Christmas for Oxford schools. With the list of needed upgrades and replacements growing, Oxford schools can now begin to attack those projects and bring everything up to date. Approved was a $28.8 million bond proposal and a 5-year $0.75 mil sinking fund, both by a nearly 500-vote margin. Reaction from Superintendent Tim Throne.
I think everyone was just really excited, pleased, ecstatic that our community, our parents, a lot of people obviously came out and voted and was in favor of both the bond and the sinking fund. And so we're anxious to get started, but we know it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. It's going to take place over numerous years. And so we are taking the next step and getting ready to get to work.
Superintendent of Finance Sam Barna is just as pleased.
No, we're very excited and we're very thankful as well to our voters that just went out and voted on a day where we really thought there was going to be very little participation at the polls. And so quite frankly, again, very thankful that people went out and voted, and thankful that the majority of voters voted in favor of both the bond and the sinking fund for the school district. I will reiterate, these were needs, not wants, and so we have a lot of work here at the district now to put the plans into motion, and to obviously tomorrow is our first meeting with our architectural firm as well as our construction manager and others, to start now planning the sale of the first series of bonds and timing with the first series of projects.
In a moment, the nitty-gritty of what's next. Okay, so the votes are in and the funding is approved. Now comes the paperwork. Sam Barna fills us in on what's next.
Question. A lot of work, actually, because what you need to do now is, now that we have the formal approval, what we need to do is again meet with our financial analyst to figure out, along with who we select as an underwriter. And there's several firms that are fantastic at offering underwriting services for the bonds. And so once we select that one firm to be our underwriter of the bonds, we'll work with our financial analyst as well to figure out the best timing. And so what we'll do is, we'll do that. We'll obviously have our board approve the necessary resolutions to obviously have a sale of bonds for the first series, and then we'll go out to the market. I'll do a conference call with Moody's or S&P, and they'll rate our district and they'll rate the bonds. And we're in very good financial standing, obviously, as a district. We've had fantastic audit results over the past several years. We're strong, we're healthy from a financial standpoint. And so what that means, and we're growing from an FTE standpoint for students. And so that all translates into very favorable interest rates when you go to sell bonds. investors look at our financial health of the district. They look to see if we're growing, and they look at just birth rates and everything around the area that may be a little bit outside of Oxford for an analysis, whether they want to purchase our bonds or not. And so we're at a very good spot, or we will be at a very good spot when we go to sell these bonds in the first series specifically because of all of those reasons. And so once we go and sell the bonds, then obviously the proceeds come a few weeks after you actually sell the bonds. And again, my suggestion, because of looking at the market and the interest rates and the timing, I've heard that January, just in brief discussions, basically January would probably be a good time frame to do that, to sell the first series.
What about the sinking fund? How does that work?
Yeah, so the sinking fund, actually, that millage is not going to get levied until the summer of 2018, and you cannot spend proceeds until after you get the proceeds. And so, the summer levy starts obviously in July, and so we can start reviewing how we're going to spend the funds beforehand, but we technically cannot spend those funds until after we collect those funds. So it'll be somewhere in the late summer and fall of 2018 for sinking funds specifically.
There's a pretty long list of to-dos. Sam talks about the order of attack.
Well, phase one, really what I feel initially, without speaking to our financial analyst, which is Umbaugh and Company, without speaking to them yet, I really feel that we're probably going to start selling the first series of bonds, which will be in the neighborhood of $9.2 to $9.4 million, series one, probably in the January timeframe. And so, it takes several weeks or months to receive those funds after you have a successful bond sale. And so, I foresee that, with putting out requests for proposals and getting bids on the various projects that we are going to incorporate within that first series, that will probably start construction and or, the improvements probably late spring. And, it's going to be, I know, and we mentioned this to the public, the air conditioning is really what we wanted to start with. Okay. But there will be other things as well.
There's some new school buses in the picture, too.
I think that the first 2 years, she's going to, I believe, purchase 10 buses out of the 15 that we in total need from the bond. And again, we have a fleet of 50, so that's not going to, accomplish the full fleet. It'll accomplish approximately a third, but it's going to be great just to have some new buses, and they're all very excited. They're excited for the students as well, and just it's a combination of first the students and also obviously just safety all around for our students first, and obviously for our employees.
In a moment, a little refresher with the head of maintenance, Tony Sarkins, on the tasks at hand. Earlier, I went on a little tour of our schools with head of maintenance, Tony Sarkins. He went through some of the projects that need tackling. Let's start up on the roof at the high school.
That's air handling unit number one that feeds the 300, 400, and 500 wing of the high school. That thing is at the end of its life cycle. The compressors are going on it. The whole unit needs to be replaced on it. The controls are getting bad on it, and that we've had a lot of problems with it, so we need to have it redesigned, and we need a new air handling unit up on top of the roof.
Just off the top of your head, what does it cost to have something like that done?
Oh, that's quite a bit of money. There's probably at least every bit of $500,000 plus. This is a Dick Champs unit, and this is feeding the wrestling area and the weight room and that. This unit's actually in pretty good shape. What needs to happen with this unit is it has to be brought up to date with new controls in it. The controls in this are obsolete, and we have a lot of problems with them, and we need to get them current. So we need the unit still pretty decent shape. We get that. There's a bigger train unit that's sitting up over there that feeds the locker rooms and some of the office areas down there, and that's in pretty good shape up there. Again, we need to change out the controls on it, so that is scheduled into the bond. We keep the units that are in good shape. We upgrade the controls on them. The units like the pool units, the big DeChamps right over here, that runs a lot, that needs to be repaired. We never shut that down. That's in a harsh environment, a chlorine environment. That unit needs to be replaced and have the current controls put into it. This is the pool unit that handles the pool, the climate control for humidity, for fresh air makeup. And it's at the end of its life cycle. It needs, we put a lot of money into it, but it constantly needs repair. It's in a really harsh environment. It's in a real chlorine environment and everything like that. So this unit needs to be repaired. As you can see right here, this is the ductwork on it, John. But if you go around here to the side a little bit, you can see the actual unit right up there. And it's a good size unit, but it runs pretty much 24/7. 365.
And that too is over 20 years old, I would imagine.
Well, when this was built with the bond of 03.
03? Oh!
This is all, everything we're at right now is on the 03 bond.
Has technology changed a lot with this kind of thing?
Yes.
Are the units smaller and last longer?
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with controls. The controls have been sold, they're so much more sophisticated. The languages are so much more sophisticated. It's more user friendly. This is back when they had old line systems in there, and that we still run under the line, which it's a very old system. Everybody's running the new backnet systems and the new controllers. So everything in this building, other than pieces that we have to replace, the controls have to be upgraded in this building so we can manage it better. This is just behind Main Street, just right next to the cafeteria. It's that low-lying area that's always got wet tile in there by the bathrooms, the gang toilets down off the cafeteria. This whole section of roof here also has to be stripped out and replaced. This is on the high school, and this is just outside of the cafeteria. And this roof here is existing. This was built with it's an old Mansville roof. It was built with the existing middle school, which is now the high school, the 3, 4, 500 wing, and it's part of the cafeteria area. And that roof over there, that skylight that's up there, that's part of Main Street. This whole roof section has to be replaced and down through the corridor in the back here. It's just at the end of its existing caulking that's in this siding on here. All needs to be cut out of here, re-caulked and sealed. I got it all over on the building here. That was something somebody just tried. They thought they were making repairs on the roof, and they just smeared tar on top of it. And that's in an expansion joint, and that has to be stripped out and replaced on that. This is the original carpeting in the middle school. That's now the high school, and you can see that there's a lot of patches, a lot of wear. We scrub this, we get it looking pretty good, but it's just at the end of its life here. You can see that was the original carpet that is right there. That's a piece that we had that we put in there to patch the hole that had worn out in there. So you can tell all the fading and coloring, and there's a huge change in that floor. Let's go up here and look at some of this up here.
Not only the color, but obviously the material is not matted down, as you can tell.
It's all wore out. Once you go through here and you try to, even with a scrubbing machine, this doesn't clean up. I mean, we get some of the staining in that, but you can see that a lot of this is just wore out. It's just had thousands of people, thousands of students running on this, and it's just in really rough shape.
Do they have better quality?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is what
modern times?
Yeah, they got rubber back carpetings that'll hold up a whole lot better. We can get carpet tiles. We can, there's a lot of different products that are out there. This just gets a lot of traffic. This went from a middle school environment to a high school environment where we got 1,800 students in here that we've got, Sam. And you can see, like here, we've got another little patch that we put down in here. You can see all the other patches that we've been patching because this stuff is starting to fray. It's starting to peel. The whole carpeting. Oh, this is the 3 and 500 halls. This is the 400 halls. Everything down through here needs to be repaired.
Next, over to the middle school. At the middle school, the project list includes lighting and concrete. More with Tony Sarkins.
This is, I call this the west parking lot. This is the big main parking lot in the front of the middle school here. And you can see the old cedar poles. They're old, they're rotten. They got the original heads. And as you pan off to the left here, John, you'll see that over the years the heads have failed and they've broke or fell off. They've never replaced them. There's one out in the back here even farther to the left, so there's no lighting in the back of that parking lot. In the bond we're proposing is to put all new poles and LED fixtures on them. So we'll have high efficient, clean light. It'll be safe and secure for the community.
Tony, we're standing here at Oxford Middle School looking at the walkway going up there.
In the entryway at the middle school. And you can just see how the old pavement's just starting to fail. It's at the end of its life cycle. It's getting pretty hazardous out here.
Is this the original?
This is the original out here. All the way around this needs to be reconstructed. It's just getting old and starting to fall apart. There's areas that are just starting to crumble in that on this parking lot. It goes all the way around. We were able to replace a bunch of it when they did the water main work around on the backside where the parent drop-off is, but up here in the front, this all needs to be replaced. And this is what bothers me. These are trip hazards. You know, these are things that you'll catch your feet on that just similar on the sidewalk. This all needs to be replaced. This is replacement concrete. It's right in front of the main entry. This was all deteriorated. You can see how nice and clean it looks after we replace it. I'll be able to leave that in place and replace the rest of this to that. But it made this safe. This was really a bad tripping hazard, and we replaced that.
And one thing you mentioned earlier is that when you do piecemeal replacements like this, you tap into the general fund to do that. And that obviously it decreases the general fund that could be used for other things.
That's where it makes we make payroll and everything from the general fund for the district. So it's monies that that we're not going to be able to put into the classrooms, we're going to put back into the buildings. Here we are on Wildcat Drive, and this is another example of like where I patched in. We had this patched in last year, and then all of it's starting to fail underneath, and it's just all pumping out, and this is a good example of needing to get full reconstruction of the driveway down through here. Some of these sections down through we'll have to get them looked at, but maybe we could do some mill and capping on it, but for the most part of it, I think it's full reconstruction that has to be done through here. And this is right in front of transportation.
And you were telling me that some of these drainage
drainage structures, what happens is they wash out and the manholes collapse. So we've had to take and reconstruct the manholes and pour concrete collars around the manholes, the lids and the rings on the tops to make them structurally sound again. And then we poured the concrete like a 10 by 10 or 8 by 10 concrete collar around them, in which we'll be able to leave those in place so when we come back and we do the reconstruction on the asphalt, we'll work right up to that new concrete.
Okay, we're looking at Wildcat Drive again, and we're looking at the old section back there, but tell us what happened here with the new section.
Now the new section, this is when they brought township brought the new water main that goes back and feeds the trailer, Lakeville Villa.
Yep.
The park back there. They brought their water through here. We allowed them to bring it through the property, and they reconstructed this piece of pavement. This will give you a perfect example of what it will look like after we reconstruct the rest of Wildcat Drive. John, here's another example of what we're going to do with the bond is we're going to replace in these poles. These poles have 400 watt bulbs in them, high pressure sodium bulbs in them, and these fixtures are obsolete, so they need to be replaced with LED fixtures, which will make them energy efficient and make a cleaner, brighter light out on Wildcat Drive.
Next, a look at the needs of our elementary schools. Now remember, a given at all of our elementary schools is air conditioning, but there are other needs as well. Let's start with Oxford Elementary and early childhood.
This is the very south lot, or south drive of OE child care. This is going into our child care.
Now, how long has it been since this was paved?
It's probably it's probably back in the, I would say probably 80s. I can't tell you for sure the exact date on it, but I know you can tell that this is every bit of 20 years old.
Okay, these were last year's patches,
Yeah, we did some last year. Every year this is a non-recurring thing that we're doing. We're spending a lot of money trying to patch in these spots in here, but this is how bad this road is deteriorated right here now. And then this is not even, we can't do a mill and a cap on this. This requires a full reconstruction on this driveway. This around here, around the horseshoe, this is where all the buses come in. This is where the parents come in for the child care. Now I'm going to do some more patching on this right here, but this is reoccurring, and it's costing thousands of dollars to keep it maintained, and I've got it throughout the district.
So what you have to do is tear it all out and build a new one, right?
Complete reconstruction. Pull it out. It'll go back in the same place, and then put it all back in. We'll have to put new 5 inches of pavement.
Yeah, and you were
here.
saying like what they're doing to a lot of our roads now is they're coming in with these big machines and taking off just the top of the pavement and then replacing just that. But
there's some savings in some of those, but we can't do that in this case. There's some parking lots in the district that we can do some milling and recapping on it, but in this case, this is a full reconstruction on this driveway. That's a high-pressure sodium fixture that's up there. They're very inefficient. We're going to, in the bond, take those fixtures off and replace them with LED fixtures. Those are probably 400 watt bulbs. We replace them with LED bulbs. It would be more of the, like 50, 60 watts. It would be nice, bright, clean light instead of having this yellow dull light. And we change out all these wall packs all around the building, and it'll just get a tremendous, they'll get a lot better lighting around the building for security and safety. And also we're going to be adding in some poles back here, John, on the roadway to help improve on the lighting for the district. Okay, Tony, we're looking at the, what is this called, rubber chip? This is the base, the rubber, and it happens to be ground up tires that will die. And it's just really hard to maintain. It's not really good. It gets all over the place. As part of the bond, we're going to take the structure and upgrade the structure, improve on it, and we're going to remove all this blue mulch that's in here, and we're going to take it and we're going to put in the wood chip mulch like this playground on the backside here. This is a new playground that was done last year as part of the daycare program, and that's all, nice wood chips, wood mulch in there that's a foot thick. This is a new playscape that PTO put together, the program people. They supported and raised the money and did a community build on this and put this webscape in there with that wood chip mulch in there. So our goal is to take now this playground right here, upgrade where we can, and put in new mulch in this whole area.
Yeah, you can see those rubber chips all over the place.
They're all over
here.
the place.
When was this in vogue? This rubber?
I don't know. It was for a few years. And,
was it kind of a recycling sort of thing?
Exactly. It was a recycling thing. It became a fad for a few years, and I think everybody's gotten away from it now. We were talking a little bit about controls and that are scheduled in the bond coming up here. And what we've got, these boilers are scheduled to be replaced, and we can pan on them. But while we're in this position right here, this is the old UPCMs that need to be replaced. These are obsolete. I can't get parts for them, and the software is obsolete. This is pretty typical, not in every case, but it's quite typical throughout the district. Every piece of equipment in the district that runs has one of these controllers on it, and these need to be replaced. If you pan over here to look at these boilers, these PKs right here are at the end of their life cycle right now, and they're 20 years old. And again, this continuation of the controls in the district for the different equipment. This particular control that we're looking at right now is an older version of an RX controller that we're going to be upgrading to. but this is even outdated. We have to replace the Summit Tracer here, which is a piece of train equipment. This will now drive the existing air handler that's there. So this just shows you a little bit more of a variation of what has to happen that going forward when we get the new controls in the district. This is going into the boiler room, and this is scheduled to be replaced. This is an existing outside doors, hollow metal doors. They're going to be replaced with FRP doors. You can see that they're all rotting out. That's causing a lot of damage on the concrete. I've also hit the other set of doors that were in the fan room right next door where the air handler was. That's starting to decay quite badly too, and that's going to be replaced.
And it all starts this spring. Exciting times. Over 250 of our middle school kids visited Washington, D.C. a short time ago. I sat down with Principal Dacia Beasley and some of the kids to talk about the trip and something very special.
So we offer the opportunity for our students to write an essay telling us why they would like to represent Oxford Middle School at a ceremony of the laying of the wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And we had multiple students submit essays this year, and by an anonymous they submit them anonymously, and then we read them, and we pick out essays that have some kind of an attachment or someone who shines as someone really wanting to represent our school and our city. And this year we had 4 students who represented us: Griffin Horde, Lauren Hudson, Esme Rhoda, and Ava Wiscombe.
It was really special for me because it just gave me a chance to really thank the veterans and all the people who died and served defending our country. It was very special because not only if I have military, I was raised in a military family. I've been raised as to thank veterans whenever I get the chance, to always know in the back of your head what it took to live in the United States and the history behind it. So it was really special for me to just go out there and actually fall and thank the people who defend this country.
I have to agree with Griffin. I had 2 of my family members were in the military, and one of our really close family friends, he died in war, and that was a lot on our family. So just writing the paper and being there just meant so much to me.
But to me, it was more of the fact that they had that tomb and that those soldiers were unidentified, and that I feel that every soldier should be paid respect to, but it's really hard to pay respect to the ones that you don't know who they are. And so that to me, that really gave it impacted me really hard, and that's why I wanted to do it, because everyone deserves to be honored.
And some final thoughts.
I was very impressed about how the students and all of us represented Oxford at the Holocaust Museum, because everybody was very respectful and weren't shouting or doing anything that was very disrespectful. Everybody was very quiet and respectful.
Very good.
The school is very respectful in what it comes to going on these kind of trips. It means a lot to not for just us laying a wreath, but it's the whole school is involved in a way, because their actions reflect on our school, and we did a really nice job of that, going in, being respectful, taking it all in, and just leaving with a memory that's going to stick with us for the rest of our lives.
That's Schooling Around for this week. Thanks to Kyle Snage at the controls, Dan Zweiss at the editing desk, and you for watching. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.